So Zoya, thank you so much for taking the time to being a part of our Community of Practice channel here on YouTube. And on behalf of SETI, I want to thank you so much for your leadership today.
Thank you so much for having me join you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. So, as always, we begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, if you can please do us the honors by introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your amazing work.
Yeah, for sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Zoya Sodhi, and I work within the space of urban development and technology, managing large-scale national programs for over a decade now, engaging with local municipalities, public and the private sector in building more resilient and sustainable communities across Canada, and previously been working in Europe and Southeast Asia as well. My background is in geography and urban planning, and previously I've had the opportunity to manage a pan-Canadian capacity building program supporting the Government of Canada's Smart Cities Challenge, and then also on the other side of the fence, supported Government of India's Smart Cities mission, where both of these missions are actually very similar in the perspective and how they want to sort of drive innovation forward, building smarter cities. The geography and scale are hugely different, and looking at a very competitive process in developing cities using data and technology, essentially looking at how we can improve the lives of our citizens and residents around where we will live. And maybe I'll shift gears very quickly in terms of what I currently do. So I work with Evergreen. We are in the space of building better public spaces and advancing climate resilient infrastructure. And we do this through the stewardship of Evergreen Brickworks, which is a former industrial brick industry site that was now turned into a beautiful, vibrant community hub. And the projects that we undertake sort of bring together the private, public, and community investment in terms of looking at how infrastructure can be multi-solving from a social, economic, and a climate perspective. And lastly to say, within some of these projects, we sort of think about how we can drive innovation through nature-based solutions and emerging technologies within infrastructure as a means of lowering climate risk. And obviously, this is not a new concept. It's one that's definitely evolving and an emerging one. And to say that we've also recently partnered with the Ontario Centre of Innovation to become a technology development site where we can provide tech companies to access real world conditions to test, showcase, and accelerate critical technologies like AI, automation, and digital tools that can shape the construction business throughout Ontario.
Wow, that's very, very powerful. You hear about the smart cities coming. I'm a little weary about it, but somebody like you, I know you'll take care of it just fine. Okay, awesome. So what's the passion? Like, what inspires you about the work that you do?
Yeah. And maybe going back to your comment a bit, I think smart city is one concept that people are very fearful of, but also very excited because there are these both aspects of the society. When we try to test these new solutions, there's always that outlook and perspective that's shared. But I think that's exactly the challenge that we're here to solve. In terms of what inspires me most, I think speaking of my current work, I think something that's most exciting to me as of right now is how we can use technology as a lever in influencing people in making more informed decisions and choices when it comes to infrastructure. So we've built this AI for Resilient City, which is basically a data analytics and visualization tool, which was funded by Microsoft AI for Earth grant and RBC's Tech for Nature grant. And it's basically a scalable tool that can help and allow government stakeholders to recognize what are the most impacted areas within our city or a region that are impacted by extreme weather conditions, heat to be specific, and has the ability to showcase where we can drive investments and policy decisions for climate adaptation efforts. And I think it's a very timely conversation. I mean, we know the Canadian landscape back in 2017 and 2020, and how extreme heat has been one of the climatic risks that we've been facing. And I think through this tool, we're trying to assess the power of AI as it relates to infrastructure, extreme heat, vegetation, healthiness, and the temperature, and how all of these parameters are getting affected by a warming climate. So we're trying to support municipalities in advancing their climate adaptation plans by adopting tools like AI for Resilient City. And so far, we've worked with the City of Calgary, we've worked with Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, Region of Peel, and very recently launched a tool for Halifax Regional Municipality to see how we can help with their climate priorities and climate adaptation plans.
Very good, very good. So, what are some of the challenges or barriers that you face in your work, and how have you overcome them or in the process of overcoming them?
Yeah. I mean, I think to name one is going to be a challenge in of itself. I think over the course of having these conversations for the last 5 years, we've sort of seen firsthand what kinds of challenges communities are facing at the local level. But I think something that if I have to bring out one or two out in the open, I think it's a perspective. It's a perspective of on one hand, we have so much of data that is out there that is available, but we don't know for sure if all of this data is user friendly. If what is the quality of this data set? What is the source of this data? So I think not knowing what's the data that we can actually use and what's the gap that we need to fill is the urgency in front of us. What we lack is actually a baseline data that is open source, that's user friendly, and that's easily available. And I think that's one of the challenge and barriers that we've sort of that has surfaced in our conversations with the cities, and our attempt in solving that is through some of these tools like AI for Resilient Cities that can help to synthesize and sort of analyze these very large data sets into actionable information, giving you the evidence to make those informed decisions and choices, and telling you why we need to respond to this crisis, the climate crisis that we all live in. I mean, it's not an unknown. It's happening out there. We know the cost of climate change that we're addressing. So I think if this is done well, the real bar is using data in the right way, in a responsible way that can actually help to influence the decisions that we want to see that make a difference.
Right, right, right. Totally understood. And so, is there anything that you are want to amplify or share with us? Anything new you want to share with us at this time?
Yeah, maybe I guess I think two things that I will say. Given where we're at in our conversations at this point, I think we're looking to mobilize a sort of action across a very wide variety of partnerships, which is going into different sectors. So we're looking at public, private, engineering, construction, experts, tech companies, and understanding what's this kind of climate infrastructure landscape? Like, what are people doing? Where can we find the synergies? What's the possibility of leveraging these tools? And where can we sort of work together? I think that's one part of the conversation. The other is we're providing these very basic, but also the other side of the conversation are very technical trainings where we sort of prepare cities to adopt these data-driven tools in informing better decisions. And then as a part of that, we've also very recently launching a Center for Better Public Spaces, where we are welcoming community builders like yourselves or people who are in this conversation. Let's come together, let's innovate, let's test, let's showcase and demonstrate what are the possibilities of use cases that people can learn from one another, and what are the challenges that we can sort of problem solve together. So I think those are the two priorities that we're looking at, and I think that's the mobilized action that we're looking forward to across the spectrum of different partnerships that we're building.
Awesome, awesome. So if you were to summarize to me, what does success look like to you and your colleagues? What would you say?
Um, I'd say, well, that's a tough question to actually respond to, but I think for us, we would think that we're in an ecosystem of providers, users, and adopters. And I think where we can play a really critical role is being a lever that can tie all of them together in building more thriving communities and building better communities. I mean, that's our ultimate goal. Looking at it obviously from a lens of infrastructure, and rooted in evidence and data. So success to us is plain and simple. We're in the business, not literally, but really in the business of building better climate resilient landscapes, and showcasing what is possible, and how we can build and work together. So I think it's that ecosystem of relationships that we're looking at mobilizing at this point, and that's our ultimate goal.
Right. Awesome. Well, so yeah, this has been very powerful, very informational, and it's good to know, what this future has and what Toronto's future has to hold.
Mhm.
So let's see if it's going to play out the way that you're saying. We want to be hopeful. We have generations to look after that's coming after us, so we're laying that foundation. So I want to thank you so much for the conversation. And the last question I have for you is any closing thoughts or calls to actions at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would put this out there for anybody who's listening to saying if this is something that you're doing, we'd love to hear from you. I mean, I think there is no dearth of possibility that, and there's no dearth for action that we can build together while solving the climate crisis. And I think data, technology, and infrastructure are so interrelated and correlated, where I think if we can learn from one another, that's the kind of positivity and outlook that we look forward to. And if we can address the data gap that is constantly emerging, I think that's what we want to sort of work together towards building a community that we all want to enjoy, a community that our kids would be happy with, where it's connected with nature, but it's also more resilient and more powerful a story to tell. So I think, yeah, I'd probably leave it at that for now.
Awesome. So thanks once again, Zoya. I mean, we're trying to get away from this dystopian mindset of, this weird looking future. But with you doing it, we know it's going to be beautiful. So once again, on behalf of SETSI, we thank you so much for all that you do. And we will close the way that we began by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Zoya, once again, thank you so much. And it's not a goodbye, it's a see you later, because I know Victor is going to throw you all kind of invites, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me today, and I look forward
Oh,
to seeing what we can do
yeah,
together.
absolutely. It's our pleasure. Thanks again. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool.
You as well. Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, there. Bye-bye.